Hey, this is Robb Flynn from Machine Head, and you're listening to Metal Express Radio.
Robb Flynn, first of all, congratulations with your 10th anniversary for your first album. When you released your first album, did you ever think you will sit here today doing an interview?
Not at all. That's pretty incredible. You know, I mean, we play a pretty extreme form of music, man. And, you know, it's not radio friendly and it's not video friendly. But, you know, we've just kind of built our fan base kind of a long, slow, you know, the long, slow way with grassroots by touring constantly, and you know, here we are, man.
You released your debut in '94. It's a kick-ass album called Burn My Eyes. Before that, you were one of the guitarists in Violence. For how long did Machine Head exist before you released your debut?
We started jamming in February of '92, so, and then August of '94 is when it came out, so 2.5 years.
You play guitar in Violence, and when you started Machine Head, well, you still play guitar, but you sing as well. Did you ever consider to bring in a vocalist, or why did you decide to do the vocals yourself?
I was just into singing. You know, I actually started off as a singer. You know, like before I was in Violence, and my first band that I was ever in, I was the singer in the band. Like, I played guitar, but, you know, we had a guitar player who was better than me, and we had a bass player who was better than me, and, you know, the drummer was the drummer, so they were like, all right, well, you got to sing. So, you know, because I was kind of the, you know, one who would, you know, be the dorkiest guy of the bunch. So they were like, okay, you got to be the singer.
Colin Richardson produced the album. Did he mean a lot for the sound on this album? I mean, it sounds very Machine Head. Was he an important part of that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we had an idea of what we wanted to do. We knew that we were going to have certain recording techniques, and, you know, we knew that we wanted to tune down, but, you know, him getting that really bright guitar sound, the really bright kick drum sound, you know, I mean, Colin's, you know, one of the best producers, if not the best metal producer, in my opinion, out there. You know, I mean, for getting a band as aggressive as we are, or as aggressive as some of the other acts that he's done, you know, to be clear and, you know, just have that intensity, you know, he rules, and he definitely, you know, brought that out. He didn't really have anything to do with the songs, you know, like a lot of producers nowadays have, like, you know, a pretty big role in kind of fine-tuning the songs and arranging things. He was very hands-off as far as that. As far as performances, he was very hands-off. It was all very much left up to us, but just the sound sonically.
How do you look upon your debut album now, 10 years after? I mean, I liked that album a lot when it came out, and it's still one of my favorites. How do you look upon that album yourself?
It's, you know, we definitely captured a moment. You know, we were four really pissed off dudes from Oakland, California. You know, very, you know, you definitely captured an intensity. You know, it's got some great songs, and it's probably got, you know, it's probably the most politically charged of all the records, for sure. You know, with a lot of kind of commentary on racism, and, you know, it was right after the Gulf War, you know, so we were still kind of feeling the effects of that. But it's definitely stood the test of time, and went on to sell way more records than we ever thought we'd sell, that's for sure.
I actually saw you on tour with Slayer after that album, so that must been great for you to get that opportunity.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, that was our first time, my first time going to Europe. Violence never went to Europe, so the record came out over here, and I think MTV, Headbangers Ball was still over here in Europe. It was gone in America, but it was still being played over here. They played the Davidian video, and it just blew up. I mean, we debuted number 24 on the UK pop charts. Same like everywhere in Europe, we debuted really high. And I think at that point MTV was still all over. It was like one MTV for all of Europe, so like if it got played, everybody had to see it. so it was pretty cool for us, to have all that. And then, because of that, Slayer's like, let's get this hot band to open up. It was killer though, man. 2.5 months with Slayer. There was like our idols.
You've always been writing the lyrics for Machine Head. Had you been writing lyrics before you founded that band?
No, I had attempted writing some lyrics in Violence, but they were just really stupid, just vaguely satanic and just really dumb. And I ended up refining it just over the course with Machine Head. The first lyrics that I really ever wrote was Death Church, and probably not my finest moment, but it was a good start.
What are your favorite tracks of your first album?
I think Block. I think the first three songs that we wrote for Burn My Eyes were Death Church, Blood for Blood, and Block, in that order. So I think Block's got really good lyrics. None But My Own, Rage to Overcome. Obviously Davidian. Yeah, Davidian. I'm Your God Now, just for kind of, a very sentimental song. And then I think probably just as far as like a statement, I'm really proud of Realize. We kind of took a bunch of samples of people's voices and kind of made this, very politically charged statement about racism. Had white power people on one side and, Farrakhan kind of people on the other side, and, tied it into some kind of, not a message, but, a statement about how we felt about things and why they needed to change.
You lost your drummer after the first album.
We fired him.
All right.
He didn't leave. We fired him. He had always been kind of a difficult guy to live with and deal with. But he was a fantastic drummer, like incredible drummer, like very creative and, just a fantastic drummer. But, he just got to a point where he was, he wasn't happy touring, and he wanted to get off the road, but we weren't going to get off the road because we were touring so much. And so he just started doing like little silly shit to kind of get off the road. Like he'd get sick, and then he'd only play like half the double bass at a show, like Davidian would be like, instead of, we were like, dude, you're sick, you can't do both bass, what the fuck, or like, I mean, like, and just dumb shit like that, we were just like, come on, like, what's, if you can get up on stage, you can obviously play, with the 2 feet, so, just things like that. He bailed out on the Australian tour, and then he bailed out on some more European dates, and we got a replacement guy to do it. And then, you know, our relations were pretty strained at that point, but we tried working it out. We did 2 more shows, which went good. And then he told us that he was sick again and that he was going to have to miss the Donington show where we were opening for Metallica and, you know, 70,000 people. And, you know, this was like dream come true shit, you know? I mean, like, this is, you know, bands would kill for this opportunity. And, you know, he was sitting there saying that he was sick and wasn't going to do it because he was sick. And we were just like, you know, dude, you know, like, listen to yourself. You know, you're not going to go open for Metallica in front of 70,000 people because you're sick. I mean, I was like, if I died on stage at that show, like, I'll be happy, you know, like, it's a way to go, you know. But, and, you know, we took him to all these doctors. He, you know, we got him like $700 worth of antibiotics, you know, like the best antibiotics money could buy. You know, they'll kill anything. And the day before, he just called up and said, I'm not going to do it. And that was pretty much the last straw for us. We were like, oh, all right, you know, we got our fill-in drummer who did the other dates, went and played Donington without him. And you know, we weren't very good because it was still very rusty and he didn't have the songs down. But after that, we got rid of Chris, went on a tour of America with a different drummer named Will, and then came back and ended up meeting Dave on that tour and getting Dave later on. We got Dave on December 26th, 1995.
Well, it must have been pretty tough to follow up that fantastic debut album. Was it hard to come up with new songs that were good enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think the what I remember kind of most about that period was that you know, everybody had kind of really gotten into. I mean, we partied before, but like we were really partying now. Like everybody was just like, you know, I didn't smoke weed, but you know, the other guys were just like smoking weed 24 hours a day, drinking, you know, every night. You know, all of us were drinking every night. And, you know, we'd kind of gotten into this mode where we were like, okay, you know, we really need to stay within the Burn My Eyes formula. You know, whatever that is, you know, because, you know, when we were writing Burn My Eyes, you know, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were just writing songs to have fun and, you know, just make music. There was no formula. There was no kind of plan. It was just like we were just making songs and I was taking them, kind of steering the ship. But, you know, just like wherever it went, it went. And, you know, we had a couple of problems with the mix, but in the end, ended up with probably, I don't know, in my opinion, the best metal, you know, best sounding metal record I've ever heard. I think there's some awesome songs on there. You know, we definitely got, I mean, classics on there. But there's a couple of songs that I'm just like, now when I listen to it, I'm like, you know. Very pissed off, though. I gotta say, it was definitely like a claustrophobic, for me now, to listen to it, it's definitely a very claustrophobic record to listen to. It's fucking so heavy. You know, it's just very intense, and I'm probably my most negative I've ever been in my life, you know, so.
It took you 3 years to follow up your debut. Was that due to all the touring, or was it just...
for 18 months, so we didn't even start writing until, you know, well after that.
And after this album, Logan quit the band, or did you fire him as well?
No, he quit. Logan quit. He, you know, when that record came out, we ended up getting like a lot of fantastic touring opportunities over in America. You know, we got Pantera Tour, we got Ozfest, we got Megadeth, we got COC, And we were headlining in between all that stuff. And somewhere along the line, Logan's 24-hour-a-day weed habit turned into a 24-hour-a-day pill habit on top of the weed habit, on top of his booze habit. And he basically got hooked on, like, Valiums and Vicodins and Percodans. He was taking upwards of, 15 pills a day, taking like 10 Valiums a day and, shit like that. And I mean, it was kind of amusing because in one way, it kind of brought him out of, Logan was always the most introverted of all of us, and it kind of brought him out, like he was like, bah, he was like a fucking wild man. So in some ways it was kind of fun to have him like that because, he was like, he was just more open. And, but then in another way, it's like, it just, he just started losing it after a while. There was a time when it was kind of fun, and then after a while, like, we'd be on stage and, he'd have to start the song 1,000 Lies, and, he'd be going into the Davidian riff, and we'd be like, dude, you're starting the wrong song, and look over and be like, no, I'm not. We're like, dude, you're starting Davidian, we're like whispering to each other on stage. And he didn't even realize it. And so I'd have to start it, just kind of like that started happening a lot. And one day he came up to us after our touring cycle ended and told us that we were all anchors and we were dragging him down and that he was going to go and be a rock star. And fucking, later on, we got into a big old fight about it, talked about it for a few days. But at this point, talking to him was literally impossible. It was like Spinal Tap, like he was on so many drugs. He was convinced that the government had placed cats outside of his house, like on the fence outside of his house, that had fiber optic eyes that were broadcasting his every move back to the CIA. I was all, dude, listen to yourself, and it was just like you couldn't talk to him, like you'd say things in a sentence, and if you said 5 words in the sentence, he was like, dude, in numerology you just said 5 words and 5 is blah, and he'd go into this tangent about how 5 words equals the devil, and it was just like, I mean, it got to a point I can't even, I could go on and on and on, and it just would never make any sense. And eventually we were like, all right, man, go do your thing. And we were bummed, it was tough for us. We, it was definitely like a kind of what are we going to do thing, because he was, even though we didn't all exactly get along great, him and I were, very, the music that we wrote together was extremely complimentary of each other. And, we wrote great riffs, and he had a very cool, unique style. And, so we were definitely kind of tripping about what we'd do.
Then Aru Luster came into the band, and you recorded The Burning Red. It's a bit different album, new influences. Is that due to the lineup change, or with that album sounded the same with the same lineup as the previous albums?
Well, I mean, I think it was a few things. I think it was, it was the lineup change to a degree. Aru obviously wasn't Logan and couldn't write like Logan. So, whatever he wrote, you kind of try and play to your strengths. So if he was better at writing it at, this one style, we tried to highlight that without losing the core of our sound. I think another thing was that I think with the more things change, the writing session, we really felt like we had just stifled ourselves. The whole sticking with the burn my eyes formula thing, we left kind of unhappy. We felt like we had backed ourselves into a corner that we really might not be able to get out of. And we didn't like that. We felt like kind of trapped about what we could do and what we couldn't do. And we were just like, fuck this, we're just going to try a bunch of shit. And, if we fall on our face, we fall on our face. But, this is music, and I'm not trying to be a fucking assembly line here. I'm not trying to make products. We're just trying to create art, if possible. And so we did that. I also think that to a large degree, at least lyrically, at some point during The More Things Change, I had become, like, as the lyrics reflect, like, I had become increasingly negative, and, I kind of, like, on Burn My Eyes, I was kind of fighting the world, and taking out all my anger at the world, and at some point there, I started taking it out on myself, and, I started getting really self-destructive, and, I started, like, cutting myself. I was doing a lot of drugs. I'd become, like, full-blown bulimic, like where I threw up, because I thought I was fat or, whatever. And I had a million excuses, whether it be, like, I drank too much, so I don't want to be hungover tomorrow, or I ate too much and I don't want to be too full, or, whatever it was. But I'd gotten to the point where I was puking, like, 2 and 3 times a day, like, making myself puke. And, between the drinking and the booze and, I wasn't really doing drugs, but occasionally did, and just that, I had and after Logan quit, I just kind of went off the deep end. I had gone into therapy after all of that, after Logan quit, because I really just needed to get a handle on my life and kind of get some kind of semblance of control going again, because I essentially had a nervous breakdown at the end of that record, and was just trying to get back, so the whole writing process for The Burning Red was kind of me going through, this nervous breakdown and coming out of it, and, kind of learning some shit about, my past and childhood and, shit that had happened to me when I was a kid and dealing with it. And a lot of that is what came out in The Burning Red. And, we were trying different things, and musically we were just like, fuck it, we're just going to try a bunch of different shit, and go for it. And that's what The Burning Red was.
It's a very good album, and you have some new metal or rap influences on this album. Is that music that you listen to, and it wasn't possible to hear that in your music before this album?
I mean, we've always had those influences, and I mean, we even got accused of it, I mean, we were accused of ripping off Biohazard on the first record because they were like a rap hardcore thing. We were accused of ripping off Rage Against the Machine on the second record because we had the scratching and Take My Scars. It's like those influences were always there. I mean, Thousand Lies off of Burn My Eyes is basically a rap, Yeah. It's just, we took it to a different level on The Burning Red, and, we had 2 songs out of 12 that had a little bit of that on there. One of our fans actually timed how much rapping there was on that record, and there's 2 minutes and 38 seconds worth of rapping on a 55-minute long record, and it's just funny that everybody like keys in on the rapping of that record when it only makes up 2.5 minutes of the whole record, but everybody keys in on it. To me, I think the thing that the most of the media overlooked on that record was the melodic side. The songs like Silver, the songs like The Burning Red, all the kind of Cure-ish gothic kind of breaks that came into stuff. Like that, to me, is really what The Burning Red was, and just very brutally honest, painfully honest lyrics. That's to me what The Burning Red is.
You also brought in a new producer on this album, Ross Robinson. What's that to have a different album, different sound maybe?
Totally. I mean, we wanted to have, we were trying different things, and in particular, I thought that, Ross always brought out killer performances out of whatever vocalist he worked with, and he does, like, as far as, like, just being able to capture whatever that vocalist has to offer, like, he is the king. He's the fucking king. Like everybody from Jonathan Davis to Corey from Slipknot to Glassjaw to Amen to whoever. I mean, he's able to get, he gets in your fucking brain, man, and he fucking, he's like part psychologist, part fucking like instigator. You know, he'll do whatever it takes to get you just fired up or get you in the vibe. And you know, we really wanted that. You know, he's not very good at guitar tones. That's his definite weakness. You know, and I think our guitar tones kind of suffered on that record in some sense. But, you know, we were kind of going for this more Black Sabbath-y kind of vibe anyway. You know, very dark and, you know, just very dark. So, but it was cool. It was great working with him. I learned a ton working with him, you know, like how to motivate people and, you know, when to kind of turn it on and when to back off. Like, I learned probably more from him than I've learned from any other producer. And, you know, when I went in to produce Through the Ashes, a lot of the things that he taught me came into play.
Well, your next album, Supercharger, was released in 2001. Here you bring in another producer. Was that to make something different again?
Yeah, we. I mean, the label had kind of been putting some pressure on us. You know, Disturbed was really big over in America at that point, and you know, Johnny K did Disturbed, so they were like, you know, you could kind of get some of that magic. You know, we thought he was cool. You know, he was good to work with. I think the writing session for that, you know, it was kind of a trippy time. David quit for a while, and then come back to the band. You know, him and I got into this huge fight, and he left for like 2 weeks. Went and joined another band. Actually, he joined this band called Systematic, and then quit them like in the middle of their tour and came back to us. And you know, we just kind of went about things, and you know, I think Aru at that point was kind of starting to drift off, and so it was really like the three of us were writing songs, and Aru was really trying to pull us in another way. So, you know, to me that writing session, like what I remember about it, there was a lot of compromises made for the good of the whole. That might not have been necessarily the best compromise for the band, but you know, it was cool doing it because it made like a really positive vibe. Everybody contributed on that record. You know, like Adam started writing lyrics for the first time. You know, Dave started writing a lot of riffs for the first time. You know, Aru was, you know, contributing quite a bit. Everything was extremely, you know, everything was voted on. You know, like everything was voted on. And you know, whereas kind of before in the past, I was definitely steering the ship. And it was, you know, in that sense, it was really positive, you know, because it like kind of got us all involved, and I think everybody really felt a part of everything. You know, I think there's some killer songs on there. We had Colin Richardson mix it, but you know, he was only going to do so much with what Johnny K had done. But you know, there's some killer songs on there: Trephination, Only the Names, Bulldozer, Supercharger, even like American High. I fucking love American High. You know, it was my first. I really tried to lyrically, I think it's as far as a composition it was the first time I really felt like I had composed lyrics that were that were very refined in their idea, you know, like, whereas before they were kind of more like, you know, violent poetry, you know, didn't really make any sense, you know, kind of didn't necessarily go anywhere, but it had some good ideas, whereas this, I really like refined the idea, you know, and made it kind of a story and shit like that, and a beginning and an ending, and that was one thing that I was really, really stoked about, you know, especially songs like Blank Generation, or, you know, even American High, you know, it's a song about, you know, my youth is just drinking beer and doing drugs and skateboarding and getting into fights and, you know, just fucking raising hell.
London, are you ready to do this? Are you ready? They bring it on. Come on!
Because on your next album, which is a live album, Hell Alive, is recorded in London, and that's with your new guitar player then, Phil Demo.
Yeah, Aru was on Hell Alive for most of it, but then a couple of songs were taken from a later festival, and then those two songs, Phil's on two of the songs.
Machine Head has always been one of my favorite live bands, and it's a blast to see you live. Do you think you managed to capture your live energy on the CD? Is that possible?
I think so. I mean, I especially think on like the records that had that kind of, you know, different production, especially Burning Red and Supercharger, like those songs I think just came alive on Hell Alive. You know, to me, they had an intensity on the record, but I think just with that like way crisp production that Colin added and just us playing live for whatever reason, they just fucking, I mean, Bulldozer on there is fucking on fire, you know.
You always play well live, well, at least all the times I've seen you. Did you have to do any overdubs on this album, or is it 100% pure?
No vocal overdubs, but there was some guitar overdubs for sure. Aru was already out of the band at that point, and he had a bunch of technical difficulties, so I actually did his fixes.
Sometimes I was shy, no return when I wish that I had just never been. Why did you have me your blood and yet why did you leave? So to the parents who could fucking abandon me, I could own this world but you couldn't give. Love the empathy every time was discarded. And to the flock, the rejects you sucked on. I'll never forget, love you to say. So to the parents that brought me this pain, from all those things you have done me, I'll never forget, love you to say. So to the parents that brought me this pain, from all those things you have done me.
Your latest release was released last year, and it's definitely one of your best albums ever. In your own words, is it the best you've done so far?
I think so. I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's the thing that I like about it the most is that it's probably the most creative we've been in a long time. You know, we took so many different, you know, styles from Machine Head. You know, we took like some of that melodic side from Burning Red, and we took some of the earlier stuff from Burn My Eyes, and just kind of brought it in to the millennium, you know, kicking and screaming into the millennium. You know, you know, it's a very modern record, and, you know, we were able to just, you know, again, we were just four pissed off dudes, and we captured something. I don't know how or why or whatever, but it just happened.
On your previous albums, the whole band has been credited for the songwriting. You said on Supercharger, the other guys started to write more than they've done in the past. But on this, you're not credited as a whole band. Does that mean you write the songs in a different way than before?
The whole band never wrote all the songs. We just kind of like did that because we were lazy back then. You know, it was, yeah. You know, they're asking for the credits. Who wrote it? Okay, everybody. You know, no one wanted to break it down, but you know, it was mainly on the first couple of records. It was Logan and I who wrote all the music. I wrote all the lyrics, and then on this record, you know, it was like, you know, Dave wrote a lot of Dave, our drummer, wrote a lot of the riffs on Through the Ashes. Yeah, I mean, him and I were pretty much, you know, the main songwriters for this record. You know, he'd just give me riff tapes, and, you know, he'd like record a bunch of riffs on CD and then give it to me, and then Phil came into the band, you know, a few months before we recorded the record, maybe 4 months beforehand, and he started adding a lot of stuff. Adam and I had, you know, continued writing lyrics together, but I still wrote, you know, I still write the lion's share of the lyrics, and, you know, we were just more specific about it. We were like, hey, let's just show people, like, you know, this is who wrote, you know. And I think, you know, the thing that was cool about it was, you know, most people don't think that the drummer writes, you know, and, you know, so Dave's got, you know, his credits all over there.
You produced the album yourself. Was that to have more control, or?
No, we wanted Colin, but Colin was working on the Funeral for a Friend record, and it was going like way over forever, and so he ended up having to, you know, he couldn't, at the last minute, he was like, I can't do this. I'm still working on this Funeral for a Friend. And so it was, you know, so close to the recording time that we had budget, you know, scheduled, that, you know, there wasn't a lot of people open because everybody was already booked. So we started talking to other people, and, you know, we started talking to people that we don't really know and don't really trust, and we're like, man, you know, we're going to pay these guys all this fucking money to, like, come in here and do what, you know? Like, we don't even know them, we don't trust them, you know, and I don't want their name on our record just because our songs ain't going to fucking change, you know? I was, like, fucking bullheaded at that point about what was going to happen on the record. I was like, I want, you know, I'll produce it. I've produced the band's demos since '96. And, you know, I was like, it's going to be like a glorified demo. We'll go in there. It'll be easy, you know. And at that point, we had 6 demos for Through the Ashes, you know, just our own private demos. But we got like a little, you know, little Tascam fucking cassette thing. But, you know, it's like fucking, we'd just kind of gotten into this like way of recording, and, you know, the things that I had learned from Ross and the things that I had learned from Johnny K, you know, I could use those things to motivate everybody. And, you know, Dave and I ended up doing like a month worth of pre-production before we went into the studio, just like fine-tuning the drums and fine-tuning all the little details in the song, you know. And then we went in there and fucking banged that shit out, and it was, you know, it was a lot of work on my end because I was, you know, I'd get up at 7 in the morning, write lyrics until 10:30, and then leave at 10:30 to go to the studio to be there by 11, work, you know, until 10, come home, go to sleep, and then start, you know. So I was doing like 15-hour days, but, you know, I was, you know, we're all really happy with it, and it was, you know, those guys have all publicly, you know, in public and in private said it was, you know, the easiest recording session they've ever done, so they were digging it.
This album was released last year, and I'm sure it will take, well, some time before you release the next album, and you've been on tour constantly ever since you released this album. Do you focus or think about your next album now? Have you been writing songs or lyrics, or do you wait until the tours are over?
We've occasionally written on the road, but not really. You know, I got riffs. Phil's got some riffs, but we don't have anything assembled, and you know, we're not really trying. It's kind of hard. You know, the only time you could really possibly write is at sound check, and I always find that like when people try and write on the road, you know, at least finish songs, it's always, you know, it's never good. You know, like all the, you know, most bands, it's just easier to write when you're in your own, you know, privacy and, you know, your safe zone and shit. You know, you're a little more willing to try new things, and, you know, whereas on the road you kind of just get into like a mindset.
As I mentioned, it's been 10 years since your first album. Are you going to celebrate or mark that in a way? Is that DVD coming out, kind of a 10th anniversary DVD?
No. I mean, we actually celebrated our 10th anniversary. We were on tour in America, and we played in on August 8th. August 8th was the actual release date for Burn My Eyes. So we were on tour, and when it turned August 8th, that was, you know, Burn My Eyes' birthday. So we were playing in Philadelphia that night, and we said, fuck it, we're not playing any other songs. We're going to play Burn My Eyes, start to finish, in order, like in sequence of the album. And, you know, and we announced it, you know, we made a big deal about it. And it was, you know, a sold out show in Philly. It was awesome. We had 6 cameras there, filmed it, recorded it. It may come out on a DVD in the future. It may not. We don't know. We may just release it as like little things on the internet or something. Or, you know, we may just leave it as this one special thing that happened in Philadelphia. But, you know, it was killer. It was a blast, man. It was so fun. And we had never done that. You know, we had never played it in order of the record. So we were like, you know, it was trippy.
Looking back on the last 10 years, is there a highlight in particular that you remember?
I think recent highlights are, you know, the fact that, you know, Through the Ashes of Empires was the second best-selling record over here in Europe for Roadrunner for both 2003 and 2004. You know, the only record that did better was the Nickelback, so I was like, yes. And the Slipknot this year. So, you know, we were real stoked about that. You know, the fact that, you know, we essentially got dropped and, you know, re-signed to the same label, you know, which is the first time in the history of Roadrunner that anybody's been, you know, let go and then re-signed. You know, as far as the way our business is now, you know, we it's a licensing deal with Roadrunner, so we own the masters, we own 100% of the publishing. And, you know, as far as like the way everything's set up, it's a lot more fair. It's a lot more, you know, balanced for us. The benefit to them is they have a considerably lower overhead, so they have to put out less money, and that's the benefit to them. You know, but, you know, the fact that we're still after 10 years, man, you know, it's pretty unbelievable to me. You know, I say it every night, and I'm just like, wow, 10 years, Jesus Christ, you know, this doesn't seem that long, but it's just amazing that, you know, we've managed to, with no radio play and no video play, managed to just stick around in the fucking music business.
Do you think we'll sit here in another 10 years?
I could see it, you know. Over in Copenhagen a few days ago, they were chanting 10 more years. So, yeah. So, you know, that was rad.